Hey guys, my name is Better Brick Studios, and what is there to say about our favorite little yellow auto bug that hasn't already been said? You know him, I know him, we all adore him. So, let's kick back and relax with a can of Ultra Sunrise. This is Bumblebee. And here he is in vehicle mode. Even though this may be my least favorite out of the two modes, it is still really well polished. As you can see, I decided to go for a bit of a mix of the G1 cartoon model and the actual vehicle he's based on, that being a Volkswagen Beetle. Near the front, I decided to use a lot of different curved elements to sort of create that sloped hood that you see on the actual car. And to the sides, you can see I made the fenders primarily out of these large curving pieces and these smaller ones on top that blend the fender into both the front and the back end. On this side, you do notice that the rear bumper is broken up by a bit of anti-studs and loose panels. This part of the vehicle mode ends up forming the arms in robot mode, and I wasn't really able to hide this area very well because of how he transforms. Same thing goes for these black pieces out here on the side and this gap in the hood. While he may have a lot of different gaps all throughout, I feel like this is a fair trade-off considering what I had to do for the transformation and just how hard it is to engineer a G1 Bumblebee at this scale. On the underside, you can notice a bit of details here and there. Up near the front is fairly inconspicuous, but near the back you can see clear hands and even his head poking through there. I tried my best to recreate that subtle curve of the roof that you see in the actual car, with first starting with the sloping windshield leading into a flat top, and the mix of curves and a bit of hinges creates a gradual curve downwards. All four wheels on the vehicle mode are able to roll, which means you can roll him back and forth. An issue I've noticed though is the hands here and parts of the head sort of tend to drag while you're rolling him around, which makes a very unpleasant sound. It doesn't really disrupt the movement though. I'm really happy that I was able to fit the clear plastic into this vehicle mode, because when designing, I was really struggling, especially around the torso area, and I really wanted to fit in these nice clear blue pieces I got from a bunch of LEGO Minecraft sets. But just with how everything transforms, I wasn't expecting to get it all the way around. 4 size comparisons. Here we have Deluxe Class Deep Cover, Voyager Class Grapple, Leader Class Ultra Magnus, who barely fits on screen. My previous build, Lean Line, who you may notice has had a few modifications done, namely around the back end and roof sections here. And Bumblebee, 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 and Bumblebee. Scale-wise, Bumblebee here comes in at about deluxe scale. On to robot mode. Transforming Bumblebee here is probably one of my most intricate transformations of all time. So we're simply just going to get started with the feet here. First, you want to untab them from the back of the legs, and they will fold forward, and then untab them again, this time from the windshield, and pull outwards, and the hip should rotate forward. Same thing with the other leg. Now that you've done that, you can rotate the waist up, then while pushing on the ball joint socket here and pulling at the waist, you can extend it slightly. To make sure he doesn't tip over, we're going to rotate out his heels like this, fold them down, and then back. Same thing on the other side. Rotate out, down, and then back. And that will give you a solid base to work with while we finish with the upper torso. First, fold the arms upward, and then we are going to have to pull out these segments. Now, as you can see, they are on a tiny bar with that little piece connecting it, and you have to slide it to the end of the bar, although that is pretty difficult. So Start by putting pressure right here, grabbing this whole section and just wiggling it back and forth while pulling out slightly, and it should start to move back like so. And do the same thing on the other side. Doing that will give us enough clearance to start working on the arms and shoulders. First, grab these panels and flip them back like so, and then take the arms and fold them to the side. That should give you space to fold the head forward. Fold both of the arms forward as well to get them out of the way. Then these pieces are going to get hinged upwards while rotating, and then folded back into the backpack. And same thing goes for the other side. Fold it around and hide it in the backpack like so. And they should neatly fill out that space there. The shoulders themselves are going to require a lot of steps, so pay attention very carefully and try not to push too hard on some parts. So rotate that joint there and then hinge it out to the side and straighten his elbow. This should give you enough clearance to hinge this portion upright, then fold this shoulder panel around and this panel up. Then you can hinge this entire part back, rotate the arm 180, and fold it down, and this panel will fold back around. Then for the final step, hinge his hand around. Same thing on the other side. Fold it out, fold this part around, and straighten out that. Hinge this like so. This shoulder panel will go down, and this panel will go up. Then this goes back. Arm rotates around. Fold it down. Flip this panel over. And rotate out the hand. Then, for the final step, face the head forward, and then you're done. Robot mode definitely has to be my favorite out of the two modes. As you can see, all that complexity that came from the transformation all comes together very nicely to form this cohesive, well-proportioned, and very detailed robot mode. Taking a look at the head sculpt, at first I was going to just go for a much smaller, more simpler design of a Travis brick surrounded by 1x1 studs, like you see in many other Bumblebee designs, but I decided to try my hand on a completely new sculpt. The only downside being the way the horns are attached. They are very easy to misplace because, as you can see, it's actually one clip holding onto two bars, so the amount of friction there is little to none. Other than that, the smooth slopes of the side and the white half tile used for the face all come together to make a very rounded and friendly appearance, which is really accurate to his G1 character design. If I'm being honest, all of this is accurate to his G1 character design. You can see he's got the white waist which goes down into black legs. Then you have the front of the car forming a pair of big shoes, although they are smaller on the G1 model. His shoulders do unfortunately have a few inaccuracies because of the kibble. These yellow bits on top are not there in his G1 design, and these hinges here protruding don't look the best, but you can see I kept most of his design intact. Spinning him around to the back, it is pretty well compacted, which is something I struggled a lot with earlier designs of this Bumblebee. I'd say this one that you're seeing now is probably my 5th attempt at building him. All the others just didn't work out because of some issue in the transformation, and I decided to scrap them over the years. But as you can see, all that practice has paid off because he really doesn't have a lot of kibble. And
The size of his torso, it doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, mainly because of how round and chunky Bumblebee is. It gives him a very friendly vibe. Out of all the different angles to look at Bumblebee, I'd say the top view is probably my least favorite, mainly because of the weird way it transforms. You can see the fenders sloping in here, and these two clip bar pieces don't really look nice on the outside. Having such a clean appearance all around is just such an accomplishment for me. Every time I've tried to build a Bumblebee at this scale, I have struggled over and over and over again with so much unwanted and unnecessary kibble, and I'm just so glad I was able to get him down to looking this good. Articulation time. Starting at the head, he does have a wide range of articulation, being able to look up very, very far because of that indent from the fenders, as well as having a full 360-degree rotation, and you can even pull the head a bit upwards, which gives him a nice looking down movement. At the shoulders, there is a lot of joints mixed together, so if you're going to pose him, I advise having some kind of pressure pushing forward that helps that piece to avoid coming out. But he has a full 360 rotation at the shoulder. Arms can go out. He doesn't have any swivel, but you can kind of fake a swivel by rotating his arms down and then using this joint as a swivel, which can get him into some poses like having his arm on his hip like that. Although I prefer to avoid poses like that because it kind of breaks up the look of his shoulder in a really weird way. The elbows are pretty simple, just having a 90-degree curve there, and there is nothing at the wrist other than a little bit of rotation, but that's just for the transformation. Rather surprisingly, considering it's one of my designs, I was able to fit in a waist swivel, which most of my figures don't have. Although it is a bit restricted by the back kibble, it doesn't need to go that far to hit some good poses. The hips are able to go backwards pretty far, forwards pretty far, and go out and in. His knees are able to pull just slightly more than a 90-degree turn. No thigh swivel, unfortunately, but just look at how small that is. And at, I guess what you'd call his boots, he does have a nice degree of turn there. All these different hinges gives him a very wide range of articulation, allowing him to hit a lot of poses, such as the very infamous superhero pose, which is very difficult to pull off with most of my figures. I also built an accessory for Bumblebee, that being his little pea shooter. It simply clips into his hand with a clip and bar system. Mixing this with his articulation gives you a lot of different opportunities for poses. For size comparisons, here we have Deep Cover, Grapple, Ultra Magnus, and Bumblebee, 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 and Bumblebee. I think somebody left a window open. There's got to be a hive somewhere nearby. So Bumblebee here is about the size of your average deluxe class figure, maybe leaning a bit towards Scout class. And out of all of my recent builds, I gotta say Bumblebee has to be my favorite.
So, to finish off, Bumblebee here is one of the best designs I have ever built. And if you want a copy of your own, keep your eyes peeled for the tutorial, which will be coming either next week or the week after that. I have been Better Brick Studios, and I'll see you all next time.